Welcome back, Generals, to another Let's Fix Generals 0 Hour to make their best game ever. Okay, there have been a lot of code reviews yesterday for changes, so we'll get to that. But before that, I want to talk just briefly here. So, on the Game Replays forum, which is like a player-centric forum for tournaments and stuff, in the past, I did maintain like a big topic to post updates about patch developments. Last month, I have dialed that down a bit and just give less updates. Sometimes I drop some video links like I did here, like where I highlighted that I talked about the diagonal movement issue in the Dominator's Mark Lorenzen interview reaction. Maybe you have seen that. So that's the issue where movements move with different speeds in different directions, right? Vertical and straight lines, they have different movement speeds, right? And it's a typical occurrence that there will be reactions to my takes on things, and so I just want to briefly talk about this. So Spalding is like a respected pro player from the old days. He probably still is a very good player, but he's not playing as much as he used to be, obviously. Yeah, he probably grew out of spending much time playing the game, but he's still sometimes active in the forums. It's quickly reads, so we're up to speed here. Don't you see the problem with your approach? After rambling for 20 minutes, the only reasons you have actually come up with to change this are the bombs dropped by bombers and how it shouldn't be like that. You know where the bomber is spawning and whether it will fly vertically or diagonally to reach its target, so it's not even all that random. You then made up stuff how 99% of player base wouldn't even notice the change and basically summed up with deal with it. This attitude is exactly why most lost interest in your projects and why many good players are worried about the way you and others want to go about balancing the game. In quotes, balancing. You need to understand that not every bug is necessarily bad. Yeah. Black Napalm mix reloading mid-air is definitely a bug, yet most people, for example, find it positive because it increases skill ceiling. It's not overpowered and is fun to use. Yes, this is not the expected behavior for Black Napalm mix, but you would not design a new game that way. No, those shouldn't be the main criteria when you change things that no one but you has any issues with. You know, overall, like this core message is reasonable, right? And you know, there's, it's certainly there's reasonable points. The issue I have with these comments is that they come from a competitive place, right? So he has like an opinion and he takes a competitive stance on it, right? So he will not be able to engage in an honest dialogue about these things. Like he will always come with some microaggressions, right? So like as you can see here, it says rambling for 20 minutes, he says, right? And then he claims most lost interest in your projects, balancing in quotes, right? So he words it in ways to discredit and to discourage going into certain directions. And I think he doesn't really, he probably doesn't understand how these things are meant to be working out, really. Which, you know, is understandable because he's not involved in these things, right? But it's not an honest dialogue that we can have if we just like, you know, approach each other in these kind of narratives, right? So I think he also, like, he wants me to acknowledge, right? You see the problem. I think he also needs to acknowledge that he is in a very niche position, right? So like the expert players, they're in a niche position. The expert players are not the normal players. They are the elite. They are at the very top of the spectrum, right? Which is, an important spectrum, but it's also not the whole spectrum. You have another spectrum which sits at the other end, right? New players or players who are way less conservative about the game, right? So expert players generally, they're very conservative about the game because they like the game the way it is naturally, because otherwise they wouldn't spend that much time to get that good, right? But then you also have this other spectrum who is more casual, and maybe they don't like the game as much. They have reservations about certain things, right? And they would be more open to more change to make the things better in regards that the more conservative players wouldn't like, right? So there's a huge spectrum, right? And Spalding and others, they sit at the extreme end of conservative, right? I myself, I would say I sit like in the middle, but more conservative leaning as well, right? So I'm not quite in the middle. I'm not leaning very like where the noobs are, I would say. I'm leaning somewhere in the middle, but more conservative towards the direction of the expert players to be more conservative about many things, right? I think my main, what I try to reason about is try to find ways to fix issues, to fix bugs. Like, I think I'm probably less concerned about like balancing, like how strong is that unit really, right? Like if it's too strong, okay, it's not a big deal. If that thing is too weak, okay, right? I probably don't feel so strong about this. I probably feel more strongly about like fixing like actual technical issues, right, that affect the gameplay in some ways. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I think about it. What matters is what the player likes, right? So if players like that thing the most, whatever that is, then that's the way it will be, right? As simple as that. It's not what I say, it's not what he says, it's not what expert players say, not what the noobs say, it's what the general consensus is, right? That in the end will be the favorite of most players. That's it. So I don't think that he is right. I don't think that I'm right. I think that the collective is right, right? So I don't think that it helps much to like fight about these things. I think the better way is to like just see like, okay, what do we think is a problem? What can we do to solve the problem? Should we solve the problem? Should we not solve it? Right? Are there maybe some ways to mitigate it to make both sides happy? To have a fix and not have a fix, right? So I think there's also another aspect that one needs to acknowledge, and that is it potentially can give a bad look from the outside. Like if you let's say the game was built with like a really extreme conservative approach, like you would say no bug fixes at all, no matter how ridiculous this bug is. If the expert player is not happy with it because it's just so much part of how he plays the game, like the scaffold abuse, right? That's a very topic of contention, right? Like where you can remove the GLA scaffold, right? With the where you can remove the GLA scrap with the scaffold, right? That's a very contentious topic because it's so much embedded in how expert players play the game, but mostly the pros and experts. It's the noobs and the casuals. They won't play like that, right? The more the better players that do it, right? So and it will give it can give a bad look on the game if people see, oh, they don't really fix the game because there are some players that are safeguarding all the old bugs because they abuse them, right? So if I was a new player and I would see that, I would probably think that's weird behavior, right? That they don't actually fix the game properly because, yeah, some people like to use the exploits, right? So there's that. So like there are different perspective on the things, and I think he does not realize that he has like a very extremist view on this, I would say. There's nothing wrong with the way he sees it. It's just like a viewpoint. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just a viewpoint. And yeah, the only downside if we see generally is that there's this like competitive stance, right? And it makes it really hard to like talk with. And I'm probably at fault for this as well. I probably also have a competitive stance at times, and probably everyone does, right? And that makes it because people feel passionate about the game, right? And so I think it's natural in a way, but yeah, it doesn't really help the dialogue, right? Yeah. So anyway, I did use this as an opportunity to talk about it honestly. So I hope I do my part in approaching this in a meaningful way. What I can do is I can only make suggestions and then implement these things the best way I can, or the way that community says, hey, we need it to be like this, right? Generally, I would say I'm very considerate about all sorts of things. And I think in the end, what will be really valuable is to have proper voting, like where the community can clearly say what they like and don't like, even in advance of a change or after they had the chance to actually experience the change, right? I think that will be most valuable. It's very difficult to talk about the theoretical impacts of certain things. Sometimes it's better to just like implement it, test it, and then figure out whether it's good or bad, right? By just play testing it, right? And so if we I don't think it helps us to just overthink all the things, but maybe just test it, try it out, see how it feels, how it plays, play a couple matches, right? Experience it. I think that's a much better way to evaluate certain things. And then if it's bad, if most players saying, yeah, no, it's not quite it, then you just go back to what it was before. Maybe you try something else, or maybe you don't, right? So I think the power is here in finding the right levers by looking at what the collective feels good or bad, right? And that's really it. So I can sort of understand that Spalding would push back. It's reasonable. I just don't agree with his combative stance on these things, because it comes off a disrespectful and ungrateful, which I've also replied to this in this topic. Yeah, it's unfortunate because this is like the regular way how this goes. Whenever something touches gameplay, it's a really hot topic. It's very dangerous. And it's also one of the reasons I am less motivated to engage in this particular forum here, because there's just so much toxicity around this. Like, it's not the forum is not populated by developers much. It's mostly players, and players, they just say their opinion, right? They don't have the goal of of finding solutions or developing the game in ways, right? Generally, there's not many developers there, right? So the audience is very different from if you're in a group with developers, you just talk about, okay, what do we do? What is the strategy, right? When you talk with players, it's more passionate, right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I was also happy to collaborate with community outposts, so that community outposts would be in the role of engaging with the community and figuring out what they want and what they don't want, right? And that all the gameplay aspect would be more community driven, right? And that the developers would be more on the side of executing what the community wants, right? Yeah. So that the developers are not engaging with the players that much directly, but they're engaging with like testers, right, who test the implementations, and then interact with like the middleman, the community outpost, who would then be interacting with all community, right? So you have like management people taking care of the communications. Yeah. Good. That's all I can really say. I do hope that there will be ways to communicate with people, like more in more constructive ways. But I think it may not be possible with players, like developers and players. It may not be possible, but I would think it's probably possible with community outpost leadership to talk with players. Probably will work. Like if they're not directly talking with developers, but just like telling them what to do, and then they filter the information, and then they bring it to us, and then we react, right? Because like players want all sorts of things. You have one player will ask for, please make the Humvee weaker, right? I hate it. Make it weaker. It kills my base, right? Then you have another player who says, no, it's fine the way it is. Don't touch it, right? So now, no matter what you do now, you make one of them unhappy, right? Because one player wants a change and the other does not, right? So, well, maybe a third player says, Humvee's too weak, yeah? Make it stronger, yeah? It could be that as well, right? So no matter what you do now, you won't make those three people happy, right? And so, and then if you engage with these three people, then you will make one of them happy and the other two not happy. And then those unhappy people, they might become a little bit snippy at you, right? And I don't think that's a scenario that we want to get into, right? Like developers should not engage in this kind of drama because it's just too much. Yeah. So it's good that if there's like a filter in between some people that engage with community and they sniff out what is actually needed, right? And then the real deal is like having these votes where the general player population can participate in, to really get the real data, the real feel from the community, because that I think will ultimately be what matters, right? That the majority wants some direction, right? Maybe you would have to argue, okay, but if there's still 40% of players who don't like it, that that you still find ways to not make these unhappy, right? So let's say you have a change proposal, 60% say, yeah, it's fine, and and or they like it, and then you have 40% that say, "Oof, I'm strongly opposed to this," right? Then you probably still want to find ways to not annihilate these 40%, right? And maybe find compromises, right? To make everyone mostly happy, right? If that is possible. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I think about these things. It's about what will work best for the game. In the end, I think I think overall all the players probably share the same goal. They want a better game, right? They want the game to be stable, to be performant, to be accessible. They want to attract new players so that the activity grows, that they can, find matches quickly, right? So players are probably all aligned on these key aspects, but there probably will be some disagreements on how the gameplay is designed, right? Naturally, right? But all these things work together, right? And we have to make decisions, and it won't be possible to make everyone happy, but we should try to find ways to make most players happy, right? And to make new players happy as well, right? I think it will be a good ambition to not just think about the past, but also think about the future. Like, there will be a new generation of players, right? So, and you want these guys to be happy as well, right? So, yeah, you need to think about like a broad spectrum. Yeah. Anyway, it's probably I'm probably rambling. Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I just want to talk about things. Good. Let me get back to code reviews. Yeah, let me. Oof. So I opened a lot of code reviews in the last 2 days. Yeah, let me go here one by one. Good. Good. So, this change fixes blah blah blah. Should we allow the copy constructor at all in this instance? Seems like it should be kept private. For which class is this? Ref count class. I think it must be at least protected. I think I think it must be public, because we still would want to be able to copy objects that use ref counters, right? Yeah. So the ref counter, the ref counter should not prevent us from copying. It would be up to the user class to prevent copying. Yeah, that's yeah, I think that's the way it should be. Good. Next, annotate fall through. This change annotates fall throughs in game engine to suppress warnings and make the intent clear. A few things. This seems odd that it thinks there was a change. There's a tab after it. Okay. Yeah. State is not used outside of this function, so this seems a bit redundant. Case 2 could be removed and a break added to the end of case 1. Yeah. You're probably fine. You're probably fine. You're probably right. I mean, probably right. I think the change as is sufficient for now to be in line with the title of this change. Ah, shit, I didn't mean to press that button. How do we abort our review? Shit. Oh. Abandon review. There we go. Yeah. So, fall through. Same as the scores gap. I'm surprised it does not complain here unless it just optimizes away empty cases. Yeah. I suspect I suspect the static analyzer does not care about the fall through annotation when there's no body behind the switch case label. So it looks like the static analyzer does not care about the fall through annotation. It is a very common pattern, and I think fall through is expected implicitly in this case, so requires no annotation to be clear. I think that's it. Like when you look at this construct, then it kind of implies that it falls through, right? Falls through. Like no one thinks that this would be a bug. They think the intention was to make it fall through. This is right. It's pretty clear. Whereas here it's not so obvious because you have this body here that does something, and it's not obvious whether this should fall through or not, right? Yeah. Okay, anything else? Okay. Prevent using uninitialized memory. Okay, that was approved. This one was approved, okay. Perhaps a switch statement would be better here, but it's not important. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if this assert hits, yeah. Yes, if the asserts starts hitting, then and we need more cases to handle, then we can look into that. Then we can refactor that. Okay, next. Prevent reading invalid data. Okay. Next. This warning is created by running the what is it called? Visual Studio Static Analyzer. Visual Studio. I think it's called Code Analysis. This one, right? Oh, it's possible to use it on one file. Oh, that's nice. Okay. Okay, next. Okay, this was not reviewed. Changes requested. This could go to the top of the function. Okay, let me see. Weapon CPP. Weapon. Why don't I see that? There we go. Weapon CPP could go to the top of the function. Yeah, let me see. Victim object. Okay, line 619. Good, 619. Victim object. Victim. Yeah. I see. He wants to return. But hold on. Okay, this is a wrong suggestion. This will not work correctly because then the victim pos code path would be ignored. See top. It accepts victim object or victim pos. Yeah. Okay, next. Unlike in 0 the radius is a fixed value. This check could be removed as alternative or in addition to initializing. The radius is a fixed value. Yes, we should not fix this differently in generals because we intend how do we write intent to merge the codes. We tend to merge the code of both games, and 0 hour is the primary code. Okay, but otherwise it's approved. Remove unnecessary null pointer tests in AI, pass fine, that. Okay, that was not looked at. Okay, that one was approved. Okay. Next. Okay, fix using uninitialized memory buf. Wouldn't char be a cleaner solution? Let me put that into Godbolt. Okay, so let me say buf. Let's say buf. Let's say it's 200, and let's do void function. Let me make this a bit larger. Can we make it larger? We can. Like this maybe. Okay, let's create a void function 1, A. No. And void function B. Let's see what the compiler will do when we put char buff, and then we do buff 0 equals 0. And then printf buff. And then here we do buff 0 0 buff. Okay, printf is not happy with that. Why not? Printf, maybe it needs to be like that. Okay. Okay, let's see what it what this becomes. So this one does a whole lot of code here. Yeah. And this one, yeah. Can we make this a bit smaller? How big is this buffer then, though? Let me see. This here, any max chars per line. 1028. 1028. Let's get back. 1028. Okay, so what's the difference then here? We also need 1028 here. Okay, so that will put the byte here. So that's one operation initialization here. All right. And here the initialization is we'll call memset. Yeah. Yeah. How does it do it here? There's not even an op here. What the hell? Oh, there it is here. Okay, can we create a share short link? Good. So my answer to his question will be in C++, it looks better, but in the generated assembler, it does more work. Check that link. Let me also take a screenshot. Okay. Where are we? Here. It looks easier. Yes, but in the generate assembler, that does more work. Yeah. Okay, next. see the comment. Okay. That looks fair. Okay. This change prevents dereferencing null pointer state and state machine. Why is the compiler not complaining about generals? Yes, this code, the null check was added, the misplaced, well, yeah, the misplaced null check was added in 0 hour. I suspect they had a crash and thought, I suspect they hit a crash and thought this fix would help them. Yeah, I think this the botched null check that was added to 0 hour here, it probably happened because of crunch. Yeah, very likely. Yeah. Okay. Then let's take a look at some more. Yeah, I think both ways are fine. I would leave it. What was this? Okay. This is not the right solution. An empty array is still a valid array and can be accessed, while a null pointer cannot be accessed. There are no null pointer checks when these arrays are being accessed, so a crash risk is introduced. The correct solution is to remove the null initialization of the arrays. I see. What does it mean? This is not an empty array is still a valid array. Yeah, technically it is, but why bother? Null pointer cannot be accessed. Well, an empty array can also not be accessed. Like you cannot dereference anything. There are no null pointer checks when these arrays are being accessed, so crash risk is introduced. I don't. Let me check that. I will be right back. And yeah. Okay, I'm back. So, empty array is still a valid array and can be accessed. How? How can an empty array be accessed? That I don't understand. You cannot dereference an empty array. No. A null pointer cannot be accessed. There are no null pointer checks when these arrays are being accessed. Okay, let me check his theory. So he says that, for example, this guy, right? This guy. Okay, let's see how this exists. So. So this would be null then, and this would be 0, right? Okay, yes, an empty, yes, a zero-sized array is possible to allocate, but it is useless. It cannot be dereferenced. Cannot be dereferenced. My understanding of this code is that if the size was 0, then it would not be necessary. It would not be dereferencing the arrays. Example. This. Yeah, potential occluders. Oh, hold on, that's not the right thing, right? That's not the right. Oh no, it is right, yeah. Yeah. So this one would be null, null. Would not enter the loop because 0 smaller 0 is false. Can you show a code? Can you show the code that you think would be unsafe now? Yeah, I think what would help here if he could show like which code exactly he thinks would be unsafe now, then we can go from there, because I haven't seen that. It looked fine to me. Would be unsafe if array size was 0 cannot be the difference. Cannot be the, yeah, so logically there's no difference. Yeah, there's no difference to having a null pointer or a pointer to something that is empty. Like, you cannot do anything with it, right? Yeah. Oh, by the way, we should have used here CPP. Good. What is this? If you check the other branch, they also check builder object, but only in the 0-hour codes. The fix here should be further up the code. Can make no prereq. Okay, I would have to check that. Good, I think I will take a break here. I will be back soon. Yeah. I wish you a great day on 8. Until next time. Goodbye.